It's me again, and this tutorial is all about the pen tool. This is going to be pen tool basics, so we'll get you started. First of all, you need to understand that all of those auto selection tools require a certain amount of contrast between what you're trying to outline and its background. When all else fails, the pen tool is the go-to tool to make that selection that you need. It's kind of a two-step process. When you use the pen tool, it makes a vector path, and then you can trade that vector path and make it into a live selection. Then you can use it just like a regular live selection. So let's take a look at the pen tool. Right now I have open pen tool practice 1, pen tool terms. There we go. So the pen tool's down here, and we're going to go to the top of the stack, the pen tool, and we'll talk about the curve pen tool in the next video. So I'm going to zoom in here a few times, Command plus. I'm using my space bar to move around. Okay, so with the pen tool, straight connections or straight lines and corners like this are pretty straightforward. I click, I click, I click, and to close the path, I come up here and watch what happens to my cursor. It gets a little circle on it. That's just to indicate that I'm closing that path. So, the other thing that you might notice is that I have a pretty thick blue line here, and I changed that right here under the gear. So the gear will allow me to change the color and the thickness. Yours by default is probably set to 1 pixel. The other thing I'm going to turn on, and I suggest you do too, is the rubber band. The rubber band just kind of shows me a preview of the next segment of line. So while you're learning the pen tool, it's a good thing to have that turned on. When we're outlining with the pen tool, this is creating a vector path, and I'm going to find the paths under path in the same group that the layer's in. So if I click on path, I can see that I've created a new work path. So every time I make a new pen tool path, it adds to that path so long as it's selected. But if I deselect it and I start making a new path, I lose this path immediately. So before you go to make a new path, you want to double click this and give it a new name. So work path is a temporary path. If I don't rename it, it's going to be gone. So double click it. You can leave it as the default name, or name it something descriptive of what you've outlined. So I'm going to hit delete and delete that. And I'm going to put my first one back here because it's lovely. And then I'm going to click away from it and watch what happens when I start outlining the next one. If I click here, it starts a fresh work path for me. Okay, let's talk about making curves. When I click and drag, and I'm just going to do it out here, it makes a curve for me. And it also adds these handles. So these are direction handles and direction lines. This is my path, and the rubber band is showing me where the next one would go. So here's the control kind of thing that I have. The farther I pull these out when I'm dragging, the more weight they have to pull that string or that line with them. So the closer that they are, the less gravity they have. I like to explain it as those direction points have gravity, and they pull the line segment toward it. So the farther you pull, the more gravity. So let me hit delete a couple times here because I've made a mess. Delete once, delete twice, and let's try to outline this. So I'm going to start at the bottom here and click once, just click, and then here I'm going to click and drag. And I'm dragging in the direction that I'm outlining, which is clockwise around this leaf shape. Also notice that the ends of my direction handles are about the same distance away from that line that I'm trying to outline. It takes some practice. It's not going to be easy at first. It's going to feel a little uncomfortable, but believe me, this is a great tool. It takes some practice to get used to. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to drag up this direction so that that handle pulls the line toward there. Now here's a problem. This handle wants the line to continue to go that way, but I want to go this direction. So in order for this one to be not dragging on that line, I'm going to get rid of it. The shortcut for this is holding down the Option key and clicking on the anchor point. So this is an anchor point. If I click on it, it deletes that and leaves this one here. So now I have like a straight connect to begin with. So again, I'm going to click and drag in the direction that I'm outlining, which is clockwise. And then I'm going to come down here and give this little drag that way. And then lastly, I'm going to come down here to close and see the circle that I get next to my pen tool. So now here's a new path, and I'm going to name it. I'm going to leave it named Path 2. and then I can move on to my next one. So I want to click away from this and have it on its own path. And then I'm going to start here by clicking a straight click there. And then let's do this. I'm going to click straight down right here. And then if I roll over the line anywhere, it automatically goes to a plus, which means it's going to add a new anchor point, and it has the handles already attached to it. If I want to move it, I hold down the Command key, and I get the direct selection tool, and now I can move it. And then I can also pull these handles up away from the middle, so I can create that curve. All right, I'm still connected here, but if I were not connected, and if I do want to disconnect, I can hold down the Command key and click anywhere, and now whenever I start, it's a separate path. But if I want to reconnect to that line, I can just move close to the end that I want to connect to, and my cursor changes to a little box with two lines, and that's the reconnect tool. So now I'm reconnected to that line. So if you ever get disconnected for some reason, you can call the operator, or you can just click on the end of the line. And I'm just clicking and dragging these things. Whoops. I'm undoing now. Click and drag, and then the end. I'm going to click. Even on the end, I can click and drag, and I get that one little handle to help me do that. Then I'm going to rename this. We'll call it Path 3. Keep watching. Get smarter.